Have you ever looked at a penny and wondered if it could be worth far more than 1 cent? Most people would never think twice about a worn Lincoln penny sitting in a jar, a drawer, or even lost between couch cushions. But what if one of those ordinary-looking coins carried a story from one of the most important years in modern American history? What if a simple 1965 Lincoln penny with no mint mark could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more to the right collector? Today, we're uncovering the fascinating story behind a 1965 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of Americans used every day, yet one that still sparks excitement among collectors decades later. The 1965 Lincoln penny is one of the most interesting coins from a period of major change in the United States. At first glance, it looks like any other penny. It features the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But the year 1965 was unlike any other year in American coin history. To understand why, we need to go back to the early 1960s. America was facing a coin shortage. Silver prices were rising, and people began saving coins instead of spending them. As more coins disappeared from circulation, businesses struggled to make change, and the government faced increasing pressure to solve the problem. The United States Mint needed a solution. Officials believed that coin collectors were partly responsible for removing coins from circulation. To discourage hoarding, the Mint made a dramatic decision. Beginning in 1965, mint marks would temporarily disappear from circulating coins. That means pennies made in Philadelphia during 1965 carried no mint mark at all. Even coins produced at other facilities were often struck without their usual identifying marks. This unusual policy lasted for several years and created one of the most distinctive chapters in American coin collecting. The Lincoln penny itself already had a rich history before 1965 arrived. First introduced in 1909, it was created to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It became the first regular United States coin to feature a real historical figure instead of a symbolic image. By 1965, Americans had been using Lincoln pennies for more than half a century. The design had become familiar to generations of citizens. On the front, Lincoln's profile faced right, accompanied by the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stood proudly in Washington, D.C., representing one of the nation's most respected monuments. One of the most interesting aspects of the 1965 penny is its composition. Unlike modern pennies made primarily of zinc, the 1965 Lincoln penny was struck from an alloy containing 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. This gives the coin a distinctive appearance and weight that many collectors appreciate today. A genuine 1965 Lincoln penny weighs approximately 3.11 grams. Its diameter measures about 19 millimeters. These specifications help collectors identify authentic examples and distinguish them from altered or counterfeit coins. At first, the 1965 penny might not seem rare. In fact, hundreds of millions were produced. Because so many entered circulation, most examples remain common today. Yet rarity in coin collecting is not always about total mintage. Sometimes it comes down to condition, unusual errors, and unique varieties. This is where the story becomes far more exciting. Most 1965 pennies spent decades moving from pocket to pocket. They bought newspapers, candy, gasoline, and groceries. Over time, they became worn and damaged. As a result, finding a perfectly preserved example today can be surprisingly difficult. Collectors place tremendous value on coins that appear almost exactly as they did when they left the mint. A brilliant red 1965 penny with sharp details and virtually no where can command prices far beyond its face value. Then there are the error coins. Errors occur when something unexpected happens during the minting process. These mistakes often create coins that are unique or extremely scarce. Since collectors love unusual pieces, error coins can become highly valuable. Some 1965 Lincoln pennies exhibit double die characteristics. This happens when portions of the design appear doubled due to the way the die was created. On certain examples, collectors may notice doubling in letters, numbers, or other design elements. Other coins show off center strikes. In these cases, the coin was not positioned correctly during minting, causing part of the design to be missing while a blank area appears elsewhere on the coin. There are also clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the coin's edge is missing because the metal blank was improperly cut before striking. These unusual shapes immediately catch the attention of collectors. Some 1965 pennies featured die cracks, die chips, or other striking abnormalities. While many of these errors are minor, certain examples can attract significant premiums depending on their visibility and rarity. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of coin collecting is how a seemingly tiny detail can transform an ordinary coin into a prized treasure. Over the years, collectors have paid impressive amounts for exceptional 1965 Lincoln pennies. While circulated examples often remain worth only a few cents, high-grade specimens tell a different story. Coins certified in top mint condition have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The value depends on factors such as preservation, color, strike quality, and rarity. For example, a well-preserved red specimen graded at the highest levels by professional grading services can command substantial prices at auction. Collectors compete intensely for these elite examples because so few survive in such remarkable condition. Error varieties can be even more dramatic. Certain double dies and significant striking errors have sold for hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on their rarity and collector demand. Stories like these fuel the excitement of coin hunting. They inspire people to search through old collections, inherited coin jars, and forgotten boxes stored in attics and basements. But how can someone identify a genuine 1965 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny? The first step is checking the date. The coin should clearly display 1965 beneath Lincoln's portrait. Next, look beneath the date and around the design for a mint mark. A standard Philadelphia-produced 1965 penny should have no mint mark. This absence is completely normal for the year and does not automatically make the coin rare. After that, examine the overall appearance. Authentic examples should display the correct Lincoln portrait and Lincoln Memorial reverse design used during that period. Weight can also help confirm authenticity. A genuine copper alloy 1965 penny should weigh close to 3.11 grams. Significant differences may indicate damage, alteration, or a counterfeit piece. Collectors also inspect the edges and surfaces carefully. Artificial alterations occasionally appear in the marketplace. Some individuals attempt to modify coins to create fake errors. Learning the characteristics of genuine mint errors helps avoid costly mistakes. Professional grading services play an important role as well. These organizations authenticate coins, evaluate their condition, and assign grades based on established standards. Their certification often provides confidence for both buyers and sellers. One surprising fact about 1965 pennies is how closely they are connected to America's coin shortage crisis. Few coins represent such a significant moment in United States monetary history. Every 1965 penny serves as a reminder of a period when government officials took extraordinary measures to keep coins circulating throughout the economy. Another fascinating detail involves collector psychology. Ironically, the mint removed mint marks partly to discourage coin collecting. Yet, decades later, that very decision made these coins even more interesting to collectors. The 1965 penny also represents the end of an era in another way. Just a few years later, major changes would reshape American coinage. Rising metal costs continued influencing production decisions, eventually leading to different compositions for various denominations. For many collectors, the appeal of a 1965 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny goes beyond financial value. It serves as a tangible connection to history. Imagine the journey one of these pennies may have taken. It could have passed through the hands of factory workers, students, soldiers, business owners, and families during the turbulent 1960s. It may have witnessed historic events, traveled across the country, and survived decades of everyday use before ending up in a collection. That sense of connection is difficult to measure with a price tag. Collectors also appreciate the challenge of finding exceptional examples. Because so many 1965 pennies circulated heavily, locating one with original red color and minimal wear requires patience and dedication. Coin shows, estate sales, flea markets, and family collections remain popular hunting grounds. Every search carries the possibility of discovering a hidden gem that others overlooked. Even beginners can participate. Unlike some rare coins that cost thousands of dollars just to enter the market, 1965 Lincoln pennies remain accessible. Anyone can check pocket change, coin jars, or inherited collections and potentially uncover something interesting. This accessibility helps explain why Lincoln cents continue attracting new collectors year after year. They combine history, affordability, mystery, and the thrill of discovery in a way few collectibles can match. As time passes, interest in mid-century American coins continues to grow. More collectors are studying varieties, searching for high-grade examples, and preserving these small pieces of history for future generations. The next time you come across a 1965 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, don't dismiss it as ordinary. Take a closer look. Examine its condition. Check for unusual features. Consider where it has been and what stories it might tell. Because sometimes the most common-looking objects hide the most fascinating histories. A tiny copper coin created during a national coin shortage has become a lasting reminder of an extraordinary period in American history. For some collectors, it represents a valuable investment. For others, it is a piece of the past they can hold in their hands. And perhaps somewhere right now, sitting unnoticed in a forgotten jar or tucked away in an old drawer, another remarkable 1965 Lincoln penny is waiting to be discovered. The question is simple. Will the next one be found by someone who recognizes its hidden story before it disappears back into circulation once again? I want to show you a simple penny that millions of Americans have seen, spent, or tossed into a jar without a second thought. But what if one of those ordinary pennies could be worth far more than a single cent? What if a small copper coin from 1966 was hiding a story that collectors still talk about today? The 1966 Lincoln penny, without a mint mark, may look common at first glance. But some examples have become prized treasures that continue to surprise coin hunters across the country. The 1966 Lincoln penny is one of the most recognizable coins in American history. It features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. At first glance, there seems to be nothing unusual about it. It was produced in huge numbers and circulated throughout the United States. Yet beneath its ordinary appearance lies a fascinating history filled with minting changes, collector interest, and the possibility of valuable errors. To understand why this coin matters, we need to travel back to the mid-1960s. America was experiencing a period of change. The country was dealing with economic challenges, growing industries, and a serious coin shortage. People were collecting coins at such a rapid pace that many denominations began disappearing from circulation. The government needed a solution. In response, the United States Mint made several unusual decisions. One of the most important changes involved removing mint marks from coins. Between 1965 and 1967, the Mint temporarily stopped placing mint marks on circulating coins. Officials believed this would discourage collectors from saving certain issues and help more coins remain in everyday use. That means the 1966 Lincoln penny was intentionally struck without a mint mark, regardless of whether it was produced at a specific mint facility. For many collectors today, this creates an interesting historical connection. The absence of a mint mark was not a mistake. It was part of a nationwide effort to solve a coin shortage. The 1966 Lincoln penny was struck in enormous quantities. More than 2 billion examples were produced. Because of that massive mintage, most 1966 pennies are worth only a small premium above face value. However, condition is everything in coin collecting. A coin that survived for decades without significant wear can become much more desirable. The front of the coin features Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. This portrait was originally designed by Victor David Brenner and first appeared on the Lincoln cent in 1909. It was the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical person rather than a symbolic figure. Above Lincoln's head appears the national motto, "In God We Trust." The word liberty is found to the left, while the date 1966 appears on the right side. Since mint marks were not used during this period, there is no letter beneath the date. The reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial, a design created by Frank Gasparo. If you look carefully at the memorial, you can actually see a tiny representation of Lincoln seated inside. This makes the Lincoln Memorial cent one of the few U.S. coins to feature the same person on both sides. The coin itself was made primarily of copper. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams and contains 95% copper with a small amount of zinc. That composition gives many surviving examples their familiar reddish color. Collectors often separate these pennies into different color categories. Red examples retain most of their original mint color and are usually the most valuable. Red-brown coins show a mixture of original color and toning. Brown examples have darkened over time due to exposure and age. One reason collectors continue searching through old penny jars is the possibility of finding rare errors. While standard 1966 pennies are common, certain minting mistakes can be worth significant amounts of money. Some collectors look for double-die varieties. These occur when elements of the design appear doubled because of a production issue during the creation of the coin die. On certain examples, letters or numbers may show noticeable doubling under magnification. Others search for off-center strikes. These coins were struck improperly, causing part of the design to be missing. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the greater the collector interest tends to be. Another valuable possibility is a die crack or die break. As minting equipment wears down, cracks can develop in the dies used to strike coins. These imperfections may leave unusual raised lines or shapes on the finished coin. Collectors also watch for coins struck on the wrong planchet. Although extremely rare, such mistakes can result in a coin with unusual weight, color, or size. When authenticated, these errors can command impressive prices. Even without errors, condition can make an enormous difference in value. Most circulated 1966 pennies remain inexpensive, but pristine examples that have never entered circulation can be surprisingly valuable. Imagine two identical pennies struck on the same day in 1966. One spends decades moving from pocket to pocket, becoming scratched and worn. The other is carefully stored and preserved in nearly perfect condition. Although they began their lives together, their values today may be dramatically different. Professional grading services examine coins and assign numerical grades based on their condition. The highest grades are reserved for coins that show almost no imperfections. Because very few coins survive in such extraordinary condition, competition among collectors can drive prices much higher. Over the years, exceptional examples of the 1966 Lincoln penny have appeared at auctions. While ordinary circulated pieces may be worth only a few cents, top-grade specimens have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The exact value depends on factors such as color, strike quality, surface preservation, and overall rarity in that grade. For many collectors, these auction results are what make coin hunting exciting. The possibility that a seemingly ordinary penny could be worth far more than expected keeps people searching through old collections, coin rolls, and family keepsakes. Of course, whenever valuable coins are involved, questions about authenticity arise. Fortunately, identifying a genuine 1966 Lincoln penny is usually straightforward. First, check the date carefully. It should clearly read 1966. The lettering and numbers should appear sharp and consistent with official mint production. Next, examine the weight. A genuine 1966 Lincoln cent should weigh close to 3.11 grams. A significant difference could indicate damage, alteration, or another issue. Look closely at the design details. Lincoln's portrait should display the proper shape and proportions. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse should match known examples. Color can vary because coins age differently, but unusual surfaces, strange textures, or signs of tampering deserve closer inspection. If a coin appears especially valuable due to an error or exceptional condition, professional authentication is often the best option. One common misconception involves the missing mint mark. Some people assume that any Lincoln penny without a mint mark must be rare. In the case of 1966, that is not true. The lack of a mint mark is completely normal and expected. Understanding this historical detail helps collectors avoid confusion. The story of the 1966 penny becomes even more interesting when viewed in the context of American history. During the mid-1960s, the nation was undergoing major social and economic changes. Coinage reflected those challenges. The temporary removal of mint marks was a direct response to concerns about coin shortages and hoarding. That makes the 1966 penny more than just a piece of metal. It is a small historical artifact connected to a unique chapter in the nation's monetary system. There are also some fascinating facts that many people do not know. For example, billions of 1966 pennies were produced, yet finding one in perfect original condition today is surprisingly difficult. Most entered circulation immediately and accumulated decades of wear. Another interesting detail is that copper itself has become more valuable over time. Although it is illegal to melt large quantities of pennies for metal value, the copper content of older Lincoln cents has contributed to their enduring appeal among collectors. Some coin enthusiasts enjoy searching bank rolls specifically for older copper cents. Every roll offers the possibility of discovering a well-preserved example, an unusual error, or even a forgotten treasure that has escaped notice for decades. The Lincoln Cent series remains one of the most popular collecting areas in the United States. It is affordable, widely available, and filled with fascinating varieties. Within that larger story, the 1966 no mint mark penny occupies a special place because it represents a unique period when mint marks temporarily disappeared from American coinage. Collectors appreciate the coin for several reasons. It is historically significant, easy to recognize, and connected to one of the most famous figures in American history. The possibility of finding high-grade examples or valuable errors adds another layer of excitement. For new collectors, the 1966 penny can serve as an excellent introduction to the hobby. It teaches important lessons about condition, rarity, historical context, and minting variations. It also demonstrates that value is not always determined by age alone. A coin story often matters just as much as the year printed on it. Perhaps the greatest appeal of the 1966 Lincoln penny is that it reminds us how extraordinary things can hide in ordinary places. A coin that once bought a piece of candy or rode unnoticed in a pocket may now be part of a collection, displayed in a protective holder, admired for its history and preservation. The next time you come across an old penny, take a closer look. Examine the date. Study the details. Consider where that coin has traveled over the decades and whose hands it may have passed through. You might be holding a simple 1-cent piece, or you might be holding a small piece of American history. And that is what makes the 1966 no mint mark Lincoln penny so fascinating. It is not merely a coin. It is a survivor from a unique moment in time, a witness to a nationwide coin shortage, and a reminder that even the most ordinary objects can carry remarkable stories. Somewhere in an old collection, forgotten jar, or dusty drawer, another 1966 penny may still be waiting to reveal its secrets. Wash a quarter. What if the penny sitting in an old jar, hidden inside a drawer, or forgotten in a piggy bank was worth far more than 1 cent? Most people would never give a second look to a common-looking Lincoln penny from 1967. But for collectors, this small copper coin holds secrets, history, and in some cases, surprising value. Today, we're exploring the fascinating story behind the 1967 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of Americans carried in their pockets, yet few truly understand. The 1967 Lincoln penny is one of the most recognizable coins in American history. At first glance, it appears ordinary. It features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Millions of these pennies were produced, and they circulated heavily throughout the United States. Because they were so common, many people assume they have little value. But as with many coins, the real story lies beneath the surface. To understand the importance of the 1967 Lincoln penny, we have to travel back to the 1960s. America was experiencing major social and economic changes. The nation was involved in the Vietnam War, the space race was capturing the world attention, and inflation was becoming a growing concern. At the same time, the United States Mint faced a serious coin shortage. During the mid-1960s, collectors and speculators were hoarding coins, believing certain dates and mint marks would become valuable in the future. This caused a shortage of coins in circulation. In response, the United States Mint took an unusual step. Beginning in 1965 and continuing through 1967, mint marks were removed from coins entirely. Officials hoped that by eliminating mint marks, collectors would lose interest in saving newly minted coins. That is why the 1967 Lincoln penny has no mint mark. Whether it was produced in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, the mint mark was intentionally omitted. This makes the absence of a mint mark completely normal for the year 1967. The front of the coin features Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Lincoln first appeared on the penny in 1909, making him the first real historical figure to be depicted on a regularly circulating American coin. The portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner and remains one of the most enduring images in American coinage. On the reverse side, collectors find the Lincoln Memorial. Introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the design became instantly recognizable. If you look closely at the memorial on some well-preserved examples, you can even see a tiny representation of Lincoln seated inside the building. The 1967 penny was struck primarily from an alloy consisting of 95% copper and 5% zinc. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters. These specifications were standard for Lincoln's cents of the era and remained unchanged until the copper composition changed years later. Now, if millions of these coins were produced, why do collectors care about them today? The answer lies in condition, rarity within grades, and minting errors. Most 1967 pennies entered circulation and experienced years of wear. They passed through countless hands, cash registers, vending machines, and bank deposits. As a result, finding one today is easy. Finding one in exceptional condition is much harder. Collectors place significant value on coins that appear nearly untouched. A 1967 Lincoln penny with bright original luster, sharp details, and no signs of circulation can command prices far above face value. The better the condition, the greater the potential value. Another reason collectors seek these coins is the possibility of mint errors. Error coins are mistakes that occur during the production process. Because the United States Mint strives for perfection, these mistakes are relatively uncommon and often attract strong collector interest. One of the most desirable errors involves double die varieties. In these cases, parts of the design appear doubled due to the way the coin die was created. Collectors examine the date, lettering, and Lincoln's features carefully when searching for signs of doubling. Other notable errors include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and coins struck on improperly prepared blanks. While most 1967 pennies are ordinary, an unusual mint error can transform an otherwise common coin into a highly sought-after collectible. Over the years, several high-grade examples have sold for impressive amounts. While circulated 1967 pennies are generally worth only a few cents, pristine specimens certified by professional grading services can bring hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Some examples graded at the highest levels have sold for several $1,000s at auction. These sales demonstrate an important principle in coin collecting. Rarity is not always about how many were made. Sometimes rarity comes from how few survive in outstanding condition. Imagine two identical pennies struck on the same day in 1967. One spends decades circulating through stores and banks, becoming scratched and worn. The other is carefully preserved from the moment it leaves the mint. Decades later, The preserved coin may be worth hundreds or even thousands of times more than the worn example. For anyone interested in checking their own coins, identification is important. A genuine 1967 Lincoln penny should display the date clearly on the front beneath Lincoln's portrait. There should be no mint mark below the date, which is normal for this year. The coin should weigh close to 3.11 grams if it retains its original metal composition. A digital scale can help verify authenticity. Collectors also examine details such as the lettering, Lincoln's portrait, and the overall appearance of the coin. Counterfeiters generally focus on rare dates worth significant amounts of money, but altered coins do exist. Some individuals modify dates or attempt to create fake error coins. For this reason, any potentially valuable example should be evaluated carefully. Professional grading companies provide authentication services and assign numerical grades that describe a coin's condition. These certifications help buyers and sellers establish confidence in the marketplace. One fascinating aspect of the 1967 Lincoln penny is how it represents a unique chapter in American coin history. The temporary removal of mint marks only lasted a few years. By 1968, mint marks returned to American coins. As a result, the 1967 penny serves as a reminder of the government's efforts to address a nationwide coin shortage. Another interesting fact is that many people overlook these pennies because they assume all old coins are valuable. In reality, age alone does not determine value. A worn penny from 1967 may be worth only a small premium over face value, while a flawless example can command a substantial price. Collectors often spend years searching through rolls of pennies from banks hoping to discover a hidden gem. This practice, known as coin roll hunting, remains popular today. Every roll carries the possibility of revealing an overlooked error coin, a high-grade survivor, or another collectible treasure. The Lincoln Cent series itself is among the most widely collected coin series in the United States. Because it spans more than a century, collectors enjoy assembling complete date sets, searching for key dates, and studying the subtle differences between various issues. The 1967 penny occupies an interesting place within that series. It is not the rarest Lincoln Cent ever produced. It is not the oldest. Yet it tells a compelling story about a moment when the mint changed its practices in response to national circumstances. For many collectors, that historical connection is just as important as monetary value. Holding a 1967 penny is like holding a small piece of American history. It connects us to a time when the nation faced economic challenges, technological advances, and social transformation. Even today, these coins continue to circulate occasionally. People still discover them in pocket change, old collections, inherited coin jars, and forgotten boxes tucked away in attics. Every discovery sparks the same question. Could this be the one that's worth something special? That possibility keeps the excitement alive. Coin collecting combines history, treasure hunting, and education in a way few hobbies can match. A simple penny can lead to fascinating stories about American culture, economics, and craftsmanship. So the next time you come across a 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Examine its condition. Search for unusual features. Check for possible errors. What appears ordinary at first glance may reveal a story that has been waiting nearly 60 years to be discovered. And perhaps the most intriguing part is this. Millions of 1967 pennies were produced, but nobody knows exactly how many valuable high-grade examples remain hidden in collections, jars, drawers, and coin albums across the country. Somewhere, right now, a remarkable 1967 Lincoln penny could be sitting unnoticed, waiting for someone to recognize its significance. That possibility is what makes coin collecting so exciting. Every coin has a story, every date has a history, and every collection has the potential to hold an unexpected treasure. The humble 1967 no mint mark Lincoln penny is proof that even the smallest coin can carry a fascinating legacy that continues to captivate collectors generation after generation. Wash a quarter.
Have you ever wondered if a simple penny sitting in a jar, tucked away in a drawer, or forgotten inside an old piggy bank could be worth far more than 1 cent. Most people would never think twice about a 1968 Lincoln penny. After all, millions were made and they still show up in pocket change from time to time. But what if I told you that certain 1968 Lincoln pennies with no mint mark have captured the attention of collectors across America and, in some cases, have sold for surprising amounts of money? Today, we're taking a closer look at the 1968 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that seems ordinary at first glance but hides a fascinating story beneath its copper surface. To understand why this coin matters, we need to travel back to 1968. America was going through a period of tremendous change. The country was deeply involved in the Vietnam War. Television was becoming a major part of everyday life. The space race was pushing technology forward at an incredible pace. Through all of it, the United States Mint continued producing billions of coins to meet the needs of a growing economy. The Lincoln cent had already been part of American life for nearly 60 years. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the coin became one of the most recognizable pieces of currency in the nation. By 1968, Americans were using Lincoln pennies every day without giving them much thought. The penny produced in Philadelphia during 1968 carried no mint mark. That was completely normal at the time. Unlike coins struck at some other mint facilities, Philadelphia cents generally did not display a mint mark. As a result, when collectors talk about the 1968 no mint mark Lincoln penny, they are referring to coins produced at the Philadelphia Mint. During that year, hundreds of millions of pennies rolled off the presses. Because so many were made, most examples are still common today. Yet the story becomes much more interesting when condition, rarity, and minting mistakes enter the picture. The 1968 Lincoln penny was made primarily of copper, containing 95% copper and 5% zinc. This composition gave the coin its familiar reddish color when newly minted. Over time, many examples darkened to brown as they circulated through countless hands, cash registers, and coin purses. On the front of the coin is the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln. The design was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner. Lincoln faces to the right, while the words "In God We Trust" appear above his head. The word "Liberty" sits to the left, and the date 1968 appears on the right. Turn the coin over, and you'll find the classic wheatless reverse design used from 1959 through 2008. It features the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Above the building are the words United States of America and E Pluribus Unum. Below is the denomination 1 cent. One of the most remarkable details of this design is hidden in plain sight. If you look very closely at the Lincoln Memorial, you can actually see a tiny representation of Abraham Lincoln sitting inside the monument. This means Lincoln appears on both sides of the coin, a unique feature that many people never notice. So if millions were made, why do collectors care about the 1968 no mint mark penny? The answer comes down to quality and rarity. Most 1968 pennies entered circulation immediately. They were used to buy groceries, pay for newspapers, and make everyday purchases. Over decades, these coins became worn, scratched, stained, and damaged. Finding one today is easy. Finding one in exceptional condition is much harder. Collectors place enormous value on coins that appear almost exactly as they did when they left the mint. These coins are known as uncirculated examples. The fewer marks and imperfections they have, the more desirable they become. A typical circulated 1968 no mint mark penny might be worth only a few cents. But a high-grade example can command significantly more. The difference between an ordinary coin and a premium collectible often comes down to tiny details that are invisible to the casual observer. Color also plays a major role. Collectors generally classify copper cents into 3 color categories. Brown coins have lost most of their original mint color. Red-brown coins retain some original luster. Red coins still display most of the bright copper appearance they had when they were first struck. Red examples are often the most valuable because they are the hardest to preserve over many decades. Exposure to air, moisture, and handling gradually changes copper's appearance. A 1968 penny that remains bright red after all these years can attract considerable collector interest. Another reason some 1968 pennies become valuable involves mint errors. Coin production is a massive industrial process. Even with careful quality control, mistakes occasionally occur. These mistakes create varieties and errors that collectors actively seek. Some 1968 pennies have been found with doubled features. This can happen when design elements appear slightly duplicated due to the way the coin dies were prepared. In certain cases, lettering or numbers may appear thicker or show signs of doubling under magnification. Other possible errors include off-center strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, and various striking abnormalities. While not every error is valuable, unusual examples can command strong premiums because they are much scarcer than ordinary coins. One of the most exciting aspects of coin collecting is that valuable discoveries still happen. People continue searching through rolls of pennies, inherited collections, and old coin jars hoping to find a rare variety that others overlooked. Over the years, high-grade 1968 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies have achieved impressive prices in the collector market. While most examples remain inexpensive, exceptional specimens certified by professional grading companies have sold for hundreds and sometimes even thousands of dollars. The reason is simple. There may be millions of surviving coins, but there are far fewer that have survived in pristine condition. The higher the grade, the smaller the population becomes. Collectors are often willing to compete aggressively for the finest known examples. When multiple buyers want the same top-quality coin, auction prices can rise dramatically. Imagine two nearly identical pennies. One spent years circulating through stores and cash registers. The other was carefully preserved from the day it was minted. To most people, they might look similar. To experienced collectors, the difference can mean hundreds or even thousands of dollars. This is why condition matters so much. If you're curious whether your 1968 penny might be valuable, there are several things you can check. First, confirm the date. Look carefully to ensure the coin is indeed from 1968. Next, examine the area beneath the date. The Philadelphia coin should have no mint mark. If you see a small letter such as D or S, it was struck at a different mint facility. Then evaluate the overall condition. Does the coin still have strong details? Is there original luster visible? Are there scratches, dents, or signs of heavy wear? Pay attention to color as well. Bright red examples are generally more desirable than brown ones. You should also look for unusual features that could indicate an error variety. A magnifying glass can help reveal details that might otherwise go unnoticed. Of course, collectors should be cautious. Because valuable coins attract attention, altered and counterfeit pieces occasionally appear. Some individuals attempt to modify coins to create the appearance of rare varieties. One way to protect yourself is to compare your coin with known genuine examples. Professional grading services also provide authentication and grading, giving collectors confidence in what they own. Interestingly, many people assume older automatically means more valuable. In reality, age alone does not determine a coin's worth. A heavily worn coin from the 1800s might be worth less than a beautifully preserved coin from the 1960s. The 1968 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is a perfect example of this principle. It isn't extremely old by coin collecting standards, but exceptional specimens can still be highly sought after because of their condition and rarity within top grades. There are also several fun facts connected to this coin. For example, the Lincoln cent was the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. Before Lincoln appeared on the penny in 1909, American coins generally featured symbolic figures rather than actual individuals. Another interesting fact is that the Lincoln Memorial reverse remained in use for nearly 50 years. Generations of Americans carried this design in their pockets every day. Many collectors also enjoy searching bank rolls for vintage Lincoln cents. Even today, people occasionally discover older coins hiding among modern circulation. While finding a valuable example is not common, the possibility keeps the hunt exciting. Perhaps the greatest appeal of the 1968 no-mint Mark penny is that it represents accessible collecting. Unlike rare gold coins or expensive silver dollars, Lincoln cents are affordable and familiar. Almost everyone has handled one. That connection creates a sense of excitement. The next valuable coin might already be sitting in a family collection, forgotten in a desk drawer, or mixed into a jar of loose change. Collectors love the challenge of finding high-grade examples, identifying unusual varieties, and learning the stories behind everyday coins. The 1968 penny offers all of those possibilities. More importantly, it reminds us that history can be found in the smallest places. A coin worth 1 cent carries memories of a different America. It passed through countless hands, witnessed decades of change, and survived long enough to become a collectible piece of the past. So the next time you come across a 1968 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Check the condition. Examine the details. You might discover a common coin worth only a cent, or you could uncover a hidden treasure that collectors would love to own. And that's what makes coin collecting so fascinating. Every coin has a story. Every date has a history. Every small detail can make a big difference. Somewhere out there, another rare Lincoln penny is waiting to be discovered, and it may already be closer than you think.
Have you ever wondered if a simple penny hiding in a jar, a drawer, or an old coin collection could be worth far more than 1 cent? Most people would walk right past a 1969 Lincoln penny without giving it a second thought. But what if that ordinary-looking coin held a secret that collectors have spent decades searching for? What if one small detail could turn a common penny into one of the most talked-about coins in American numismatic history? The 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those fascinating coins that continues to capture the imagination of collectors across the United States. At first glance, it appears completely ordinary. It carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Millions of Americans handled these pennies every day, spending them on candy, newspapers, and everyday purchases. Yet today, certain examples from this year can attract enormous attention from collectors and investors. To understand why, we need to travel back to 1969. America was experiencing a remarkable period in history. The country was preparing for the first moon landing, technology was advancing rapidly, and everyday commerce depended heavily on coins and cash. The United States Mint was producing billions of coins to meet the demands of a growing economy. Most 1969 Lincoln pennies without a mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint. During that time, pennies made in Philadelphia generally did not carry a mint mark. As a result, millions upon millions of 1969 pennies entered circulation with no letter beneath the date. For most of these coins, the value remains modest, usually just a few cents unless they are in exceptionally well-preserved condition. The Lincoln cent itself already had a long and respected history by 1969. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it became the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. The design was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, whose portrait of Lincoln became one of the most recognizable images in American coinage. By 1969, the penny still featured Brenner's portrait on the obverse. On the reverse was the Lincoln Memorial design introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This combination of Lincoln's portrait and the memorial remained on pennies for decades and became familiar to generations of Americans. The 1969 penny was struck primarily from an alloy consisting of 95% copper and 5% zinc. This composition gave the coin its distinctive reddish color when freshly minted. The coin weighed approximately 3.11 grams and measured about 19 millimeters in diameter. These specifications remained standard for Lincoln cents of that era. What makes the 1969 no-mint mark penny particularly interesting is that while most examples are common, a tiny number are associated with one of the most famous minting errors in American coin history. This error is known as the 1969 S-double die obverse. Although that famous variety carries an S mint mark and is technically different from the standard Philadelphia coin, its existence caused collectors to examine all 1969 pennies much more closely. As word spread about rare double-die pennies, people across the country began searching through their change. Suddenly, every 1969 penny became worth a second look. Coin collectors started paying attention to date placement, lettering details, and unusual characteristics that might indicate something special. For ordinary 1969, no mint mark pennies, condition became the most important factor. A penny that circulated heavily for years might show significant wear and only be worth face value. But examples that survived in pristine condition became much more desirable. Professional grading services evaluate coins using a scale that measures preservation and visual quality. Higher-grade examples are often far rarer than most people realize. Think about it. Pennies are designed to circulate. They pass through countless hands, cash registers, and pockets. Finding one that remains nearly perfect after decades can be surprisingly difficult. Because of this, some high-grade 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln cents have sold for impressive prices compared to their original 1-cent value. While circulated examples are generally common, exceptional specimens certified in top grades can command substantial premiums among collectors seeking the finest known examples. Another reason collectors enjoy searching through 1969 pennies is the possibility of finding lesser-known mint errors. During the minting process, mistakes occasionally occur. These can include off-center strikes, die cracks, clip planchets, and other unusual characteristics. While most 1969 pennies are normal, error coins from this year could be worth significantly more than face value, depending on the rarity and severity of the mistake. One of the most exciting aspects of coin collecting is that valuable discoveries can still happen. People have found collectible coins in old piggy banks, inherited collections, estate sales, and forgotten jars of change. This treasure hunt element keeps collectors interested year after year. When discussing value, it is important to separate ordinary examples from genuinely rare varieties. Most 1969 no-mint mark pennies found in circulation are not worth thousands of dollars. However, well-preserved, uncirculated examples can attract collector interest, especially when certified by major grading companies. Some high-grade specimens have sold for hundreds of dollars, particularly those with strong, original luster and minimal contact marks. The exact value depends on condition, market demand, and certification. Coin prices fluctuate over time as collector interest changes and new examples enter the market. Because rare coins can bring substantial money, counterfeiters have occasionally attempted to create fake rarities. This makes authentication extremely important. Collectors should be cautious when evaluating any coin that appears unusually valuable. If you are examining a 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, start by looking carefully at the date and overall design. Genuine coins should show natural wear patterns consistent with age. The lettering should appear properly formed, and the surfaces should not display signs of alteration. Weight is another useful clue. A genuine 1969 copper Lincoln cent should weigh close to 3.11 grams. Significant differences could indicate damage, alteration, or a counterfeit piece. Measuring the diameter can also help confirm authenticity. Magnification is one of the collector's best tools. A simple coin loop allows you to inspect details closely. Look for unusual doubling, die cracks, repunched features, or other minting anomalies. However, remember that true double-die varieties are different from common forms of machine doubling, which generally add little value. Collectors often recommend comparing a suspected unusual coin with verified examples from trusted reference sources. Professional grading services can provide authentication when a coin appears potentially valuable. One fascinating fact about Lincoln cents is that they have become one of the most collected coin series in American history. Generations of collectors have assembled date-in-mint sets, searched bank rolls, and hunted for rare varieties. The 1969 penny remains part of this larger collecting tradition. Another interesting detail is that many people overlook the importance of color when evaluating copper coins. Lincoln cents are often classified as red, red-brown, or brown. Coins retaining their original red mint color are generally more desirable, especially in higher grades. A bright red 1969 penny preserved for decades can attract stronger collector interest than a darker example with similar wear. The popularity of the Lincoln Cent series also means that educational resources are widely available. New collectors can learn about grading, error identification, and market values relatively easily compared with more obscure coin series. This accessibility helps keep interest in coins like the 1969 penny alive. Many experienced collectors remember searching rolls of pennies hoping to find something extraordinary. The thrill comes from the possibility that an overlooked coin could reveal an unexpected story. Every scratch, mark, and detail reflects a journey through history. The 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln penny represents a unique connection to a transformative period in America. It circulated during the year humans first walked on the moon. It passed through the hands of people living through historic cultural and technological changes. Each surviving coin serves as a tiny piece of that era. Collectors also appreciate the affordability of most examples. Unlike rare gold coins that can cost thousands of dollars, many Lincoln Cents remain accessible to beginners. This allows people of all ages to participate in the hobby while learning about history, economics, and American craftsmanship. Even after decades, interest in the 1969 penny shows no sign of disappearing. Auction records, collector forums, and coin shows continue to feature discussions about condition rarities, unusual errors, and valuable discoveries. The combination of historical significance and treasure hunt excitement keeps these coins relevant. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about the 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is how it reminds us that extraordinary stories can hide inside ordinary objects. What appears to be a simple coin worth 1 cent may actually represent history, artistry, rarity, and the enduring passion of collectors. So the next time you come across an old penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look at the date. Examine the details. Consider where that coin has traveled and what it has witnessed over the decades. Somewhere among millions of ordinary pennies could be a coin with a story waiting to be discovered. And that is exactly why collectors continue searching, studying, and preserving coins like the 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Because sometimes the smallest treasures are the ones hiding in plain sight, and the next remarkable discovery could be sitting quietly in someone's pocket change right now.